Matthew Hudson on the 9th of July, the second video in this series on the emergent knowledge experiment. Thank you again for being involved. This video will give us a brief overview of clean space and representation. So what are you doing when you're running this experiment? There's three things which you're going to be doing fundamentally. You're going to be representing your answer, you will be placing that answer somewhere in space, and you will be moving around the space. They are the fundamentals. What is clean space? Well, without going too much, it was a technique developed by David Grove out of clean language, where he could have a client explore their own spatial metaphors and how they connect with that, so their sense of self and their sense of space. He did this using many materials, and what was discovered that simply having a collection of paper and a collection of pens is sufficient to run this process. If you need post-it notes for sticking to walls, or sellotape or blue tack, that is all useful. The multitude of having different sizes of paper, different coloured pens, is all very useful as well, but it's not a requirement. It just gives the client, and it would give yourself, more scope when expressing what is coming out of you. Anything else which comes out is you will need a process to run. In the CK experiment, that is process 4, so that is already in your hands and you already have it. A demonstration of that will follow in the third video. So once that will provide you the questions and the instructions. The answers to the questions and the instructions are all represented. Everything in those steps is put onto paper and placed in space. So we can run through, so again, and then as you move through the space to get information from what is being placed. If you haven't had clean space facilitation, I recommend you get some. You can get a copy of the Eternal Moment of Now. That will offer you great insight and further in-depth knowledge. Also insights into clean space, I believe, is the book by James Lawley and Marion Way, is very useful. So let's just look at how this works in practice. If we take the first 3 questions of process 4, those 3 questions are: where are you now, and where have you been, and compare where you've been to where you are now. If we go through those 3 questions, how you would do that using clean space methodology. So where are you now? I answer that question in whatever way it comes out of me, and so I get a sense of where I am now in this space and maybe what brought me to this place, where in life am I up to. So that question is very open-ended, and it allows you to experience whatever you need to experience in that moment. So the answer to that question is written, or it's drawn down. And once you've written and drawn it, you can then take that answer and place it where it belongs. For me, this is going to go top and middle of this wall, and this represents and feels to be the right place for that. Once I've written and placed that, I can move on to the next question. And the next question is, and where have you been? And I wait for the answer to that question to come out of my system. And I get a sense of some other state I've been in, some other place, some other experience from my history. And when that comes to me, when that comes up through my system, I represent that answer. And so I write that answer down, I draw it, and I may even choose an object to represent that. And once I've done that, I then place my second answer, and I place it in relationship to what is already out there. So where does this belong in relationship to now? Well, it doesn't go next to it. That doesn't feel right, and it doesn't want to go too far away from it. So for me, it feels this sort of distance, and it probably feels like it should go down here, as if it's leading towards the now. There's a sense of how these things work together. And this is the spatial metaphor. This is my system starting to give me additional information about what is out here. The third question in process 4 is, and compare where you've been to where you are now. And compare where you've been to where you are now. And so sometimes, as we said, there's 3 activities. You write, you place, and you move. So to get information about this comparison question, maybe I do have to move. I have to get close to this answer, to now, and I have to get close to this past, and maybe step away and consider information about these 2 aspects. And once I've got a sense of the differences and the similarities that are going on here, I can represent those and place those where they belong. And for me right now, that comparison sits directly in between on that line which I felt existed between them. These are the first 3 activities which you'll be taking part in Clean Space. So you write the answer, you place the answer, and you also move around the space. That should get you going. I hope everything is enough to get you up and running. The third video will be on running through the actual process 4, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much.